waterfall or if you're doing agile. So in waterfall, again, sometimes if you have, let's say, a defect that, or agile for that matter, you have a defect and you're not able to resolve it before essentially your go live. So in those cases, you need to evaluate, say, okay, is this a showstopper? And if it is a showstopper, well, then you probably should not be going live, right? It defeats the point if it is a showstopper. So it has to be resolved. But if it is something that is not a showstopper, typically when, again, if using agile methodology, then typically that will be added to the backlog. So essentially you capture that, so you know it is, again, it is in your bug tracker, but it is added to your backlog. So as you're then doing your next sprint or in a future sprint, that can be resolved. But another thing that I have seen people using as an approach is, if it is something that is significant enough that should be brought to resolution, because maybe it is part of the requirements, because sometimes you find things but they're not part of your requirements. So is, again, you just found it, again, because you were, again, testing it, but it wasn't necessarily part of. But if it is part of your requirements and suddenly saying, look, I have this requirement, I'm not able to meet it, it's not a showstopper, I still want to advance. Many times we might open a non-conformance. So essentially you have a way of having visibility to that, so it doesn't fall through the cracks, and you say, okay, like eventually we need to resolve this. So it's a way of compromising but not giving the farm away, in the sense of it, like you're not brushing that under the rug, you're creating a mechanism that provides visibility, because typically non-conformances, they feed into management review, right? So if it goes unresolved for a very long time, or someone decides to just kill this thing, well, there is at least some awareness to management. Yes, so there is that visibility. So it's not shoved there under the rug.
Exactly.
A couple other ideas, Ron, and I think the really most important thing you said is, when you have a defect that you can't resolve, sometimes it's because a vendor has to fix something, right? In your report, put in your rationale for release. That's really important. You're releasing with open defects. So you do want to close that defect. You want to close it to another quality record. Ron had mentioned non-conformance. A couple other options there. If your organization uses problem reports, close it to a problem report, track it that way. Last possibility, close it to your risk management report. Go back to your functional risk assessment and indicate in that functional risk assessment that that's a requirement that didn't pass, and what you're doing, the mitigations that you're enhancing to beef it up.
And just to add something to that one is, like, one, again, putting my auditor hat from my days of auditing, is what I have seen sometimes is there is an issue, and instead of opening a non-conformance, it's just like it is mentioned in your, like, let's say your summary report, your validation report. It is mentioned there, but then it is signed off, the application goes live, nobody follows through.
It's buried.
So right, so it lacks the visibility. Essentially, it does not have a chance of staying alive until it gets resolved. And so I would say try to avoid that, because that will essentially, like, invariably, like in health authorities, when they come to do audits, they always want to see your compliance report or your summary report or like your validation report. And if it is, and then let's say you haven't touched it for 3 years, and then you pull that up, it says, oh, by the way, we had all these like defects that we could not resolve, we'd release it. And then the next question is going to be, so what did you do with those? It's like, and then it's the deer in the headlights. Is like, well, we actually haven't done anything. Well, now you're like essentially opening yourself up for some trouble. So put into a mechanism that essentially will keep it alive until it's resolved. And sometimes, again, an organization might decide that, yes, that was a requirement, we couldn't really make it to work. Yep. There is really not a technically viable solution, and maybe we need to kill that requirement because we cannot make it work. But at least it is like an informed decision, and so again, it's not something that is just like buried and forgotten.